Not ridden with us before, we are what is considered a historic railroad, not a scenic railway. The trip is not meant to be scenic in any way. We're a museum after all. So the focus of our journey today is going to be the history of this railroad and our equipment rather than what you see on the window. Now this trip in particular, as it says in your ticket, is a 55-minute experience. It'll include 15 minutes of travel in each direction on the 3-mile railroad donated to us by the Southern Railway, and a 25-minute layover at East Chattanooga where we'll have a turntable demonstration and back shop tour of the train. Now you're traveling on one of the first railroads into Chattanooga today. This line was completed in 1859 by the East Tennessee and Georgia Railroad. The ET&G would merge with a number of other railroads over time to eventually become the famous Southern Railway in 1894. The Southern would continue to use this 3-mile strip of track until they abandoned it in the 1950s. We'll reasons I'll explain later in our journey. They built a new line to the north, which you can see to the right of our screen now on that bridge in Emmanuel, and that line is still used today by the Southern Railroad successor, the Local Corporation. Then, of course, after the Southern Railroad did abandon this line, they would donate the 3 miles to us here at the museum, which is what we still operate on to this day. On the left side of our train, you'll see a gravel road. That gravel road is the roadbed for the original 1859 right-of-way. The line was elevated to its current height and position in the first decade of the 20th century by the Southern Railway due to numerous occasions of flooding. Chattanooga used to be extremely prone to flooding before the construction of the Chickamauga Dam during the Great Depression. As an example of this flooding, to your left in just a moment, you'll see a sign. That sign will be a tree with a yellow line painted on it. That yellow line represents the high water mark from the Great Flood of 1867. At 9 feet above the track, it will explain why this line had to be elevated. We're now crossing our first bridge over South Chickamauga Creek, and the water flows to the left there as they set up stone piers. Stone piers mark the size of the original bridge. On top of those stone piers would have been a wooden deck to let the rails would have run on. Now, the original bridge in that location was made entirely of stone, and it was washed away in a flood in 1861. Unfortunately, the engineer did not see that that bridge had washed away in time. And, well, let's just say he and his train went for a swim. The current bridge span we just crossed over was built for the Southern Railway in 1906 when the line was elevated. On the right side of our train, you'll see a embankment running downhill diagonally between us and that other adjacent railroad. Now, that is a remnant of Civil War history. To give you the backstory, the next bridge we cross over will be over another railroad called the Western Atlantic Railroad, and they had their bridge over South Chickamauga Creek sabotaged during the Civil War. They would go at the connected to the railroad they're traveling on today on that embankment there, so they could bypass their sabotage bridge using the bridge this railroad on the creek. And that connection there was called the Dalton Tunnel. After the war was over, their track was ripped up, and all that remains today is the embankment itself. We're now crossing over that railroad on our second bridge, the Western Atlantic Railroad. That road you see below us there was the first railroad into Chattanooga. It was completed by the state of Georgia in 1850. That line runs from Atlanta to Chattanooga and is still owned by the state of Georgia today. They currently lease it out to CSX. That line is also home to a famous story from the Civil War. Some of you may have heard of it, and that would be the Great Locomotive Chase. Such a famous story from that time that it has been adapted into many Hollywood films, including both the silent film The General and one of Walt Disney's original films from the 1950s titled The Great Locomotive Chase starring Parker. You'll see an industry that we're on our train here. This is a great customer for us here on the road. We handle freight as well as passengers. This industry here is called Allied Metal. They make alloy factory. We also see boxcar loads that take vehicles with the loading docks here at Allied Metal, as well as the boxcar back out. And we do also use these two signage for stores as some of our excess equipment, including some that you see down there now. Now, brief history on the equipment you're riding on today. Starting at the rear of the train, we have car number 906, a heavyweight car built in 1924 by the Pullman Company for the Railroad, used on many of the different passenger trains, such as the Seminole, the Man of War, and the Chattanooga. When that car was new, it would have had open windows and no air conditioning. In the 1930s, that car was modernized, having larger picture windows installed and AC installed as well. That car later saw service with the Southern Railway and has been a part of our collection for a long time. In the middle of our train, we have car number 1000, a heavyweight car built in 1925 by the Pullman Company for the Southern Railway, used on many of their famous passenger trains, such as the Crescent, Monterey Leon, World Palm, Pelican, and so on. When new, that car had a built-in AC in the 30s. It was also modernized, having shut and air conditioning installed. When the car was donated to us in the 1960s, we demodernized it, reopening the windows and moving the air conditioning to allow for a good 1960s experience. It is the only operating car in our collection that allows for windows to be opened. And then finally, at the front of the train, we have car number 857, a lightweight silver-sided streamlined car built in 1947 by the Bud Company for the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad, and it was used on many New York Florida trains, such as the Havana Special, the West Coast Canadian, and the Silver Meteor. The car will later see service on Amtrak into its current red and blue interior. The car was donated to us in 2011 by the OoTelwah chapter of the National Railroad Historical Society, and we've been using it here since that time. We're now crossing our third bridge over Tunnel Boulevard. Originally, this road you see below us here would have tunneled underneath the railroad name. When the Southern Railway abandoned this line in the 1950s, the route of that tunnel was up to a maintenance cost. After the land was donated to us, we put a bridge over the gap. So today we have a tunnel boulevard without a tunnel. Speaking of tunnel, we're not making our climb up Missionary Ridge, but rather than travel over it, we're going to travel through it. Through the Missionary Ridge Tunnel, also known as the Whiteside Tunnel, named after Colonel James Whiteside, a major stockholder in the railroad at the time. The tunnel is 986 feet long. It was completed in 1858, and it was excavated entirely by pick and shovel, as Dynamite was known until 1867. So I guess you could say that it went off without a name. Black powder could also not be used due to the unstable nature of the geography of the Missionary Ridge. They did do it all by hand, excavated to both sides of the ridge in the middle. When they did these, they were only off the center from one another by 3 inches. During World War II, this tunnel would see as many as 70 trains a day. Now, the tunnel is the reason that this line was eventually abandoned. After World War II, the railway's equipment coming to us to fit in the pre-Civil War era tunnel. Also, the Tommy Tunnel was single track, while the rest of the line was double track, creating a major bottleneck. So that new line was built just to the north and bypassing the ridge altogether. Now, for those of you in Car 1000 with those open windows, for your safety, please keep all body parts inside the train at all times. Follow the tunnel for your safety, as distance between us and the tunnel wall will be less than 1 foot at time. The tunnel cost an ornamental leg to build over 160 years ago, and we pay for it cost you an ornamental leg to travel through it. Please keep it in the train. If you have a flashlight app on your cell phone, I do encourage you to have the document at this time. Be trying to up against the windows and illuminate the tunnel walls as we pass through. Do that. That was the point of our locomotive to start signaling our route to the tunnel. Moving in for the next few moments. I hope no one on board is scared of the dark. But if you are too late to there in excavation, some of the tunnel is lined with brick, some of it lined with stone, and some of it has a natural rock that makes the area exposed. That natural rock you see is limestone, but for some people, they get with granite. Now, the areas you do see the brick and stone lining is due to a collapse experience here in the construction of the tunnel. So they did reinforce these unstable sections with this brick and stone lining. Some sections they didn't unstable. placement of our train here would have been the location where the control tower was installed, called the Beam Tower. It was a 2 or 3-story structure. You would have housed the controlman on the top floor. From that tower, the controlman would have been controlling switches and signals on either side of the tunnel. That would have allowed only one train to pass through the single-track tunnel, otherwise a double-track railroad at the time. From there, the trains would have continued on into downtown Chattanooga, where their final destination would have been Terminal Station, which has today been converted into the Chattanooga Choo-Choo Hotel. Named after the song made famous by Glenn Miller during World War II, the Chattanooga Choo-Choo, the first song to ever receive the gold record. If you've never heard it, I do highly recommend giving it a listen. In 1890, a freight train traveling east was approaching the tunnel portal that we just exited from. As that train was on the very spot we are on right now, the locomotive on that train exploded due to a low water situation, killing all members of the crew. That locomotive would be repaired and put back into service, and it has still survived today in the depreservation era. You can currently find that locomotive on display in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, next to the Parkway, painted as the Dollywood Express number 107, acting as an advertisement for the theme park. Now, we've just about reached the end of the 3-mile railroad donated by the Southern Railway, so it's worth a few more minutes to come to a stop at our East Chattanooga depot. Once there, you have the option of either staying on board the train for the layover, or joining us off the train as we do a demonstration of our turntable as we spin the locomotive around 180 degrees for the return trip, as well as taking behind the scenes look in our back shop where our restoration takes place. I do highly encourage everyone to join us off the train here in Chattanooga. If you stay on board, you'll be missing quite a bit of the experiences you offer on this trip. This is one of the only places in the world that is about to take place. And do keep in mind, it is only the locomotive getting turned on the turntable, not the car, so you will have to actually bring a witness. If anyone does need to use the restroom here in East Chattanooga, there will be a restroom available inside the depot, the Graywood building right next to our train or outside once we get stopped. There will also be a small selection of drinks, snacks, and souvenirs inside that depot, including glass bottle sodas and old-fashioned candies to go along with our 1940s era theme here, and ice cream as well. Please do remain seated though once we come to a stop. We will let you know when it is safe to make your way to the exit. Once you do exit the train, just take a left turn, follow that pathway past the locomotive and down to the turntable. And after we have everyone off the train, we will immediately begin the demonstration. If you don't want to miss anything, I do recommend heading directly to
locomotive around on our turntable. This table was manufactured in 1916 by the American Bridge and Iron Foundry for the Central of Georgia Railroad, utilized in their Macon, Georgia facility. Now they quickly outgrew this table, believe it or not. Back then, remember, they were turning steam engine and tender. So this 80-foot table, they quickly outgrew in about 9 years. They ended up moving it down to Cedartown, Georgia, at the end of one of their branch lines where they were using smaller locomotives. See, back then the railroads were growing, they were getting longer trains, heavier trains, needing larger locomotives. Now we use Southern 4501, our Mikado steam engine with a 282 wheel arrangement. We use that on the weekends to pull the Missionary Ridge Local. When we pull that locomotive on the table, there's about 9 to 10 inches of rail in front of the pilot wheels, 9 to 10 inches of rail at the back of the tender wheels. That locomotive is 85 feet from coupler face to coupler face. So when we turn it, that coupler is going across that rope into that yellow line. So that's about as big a locomotive as we can put on the table. Also, that locomotive, first thing in the morning on Saturday morning when we turn it, weighs in about 215 tons. Add that to our 80-ton table, we're looking at close to 300 tons. Now, back in the day, this table was also known as an Armstrong table. Break that word down, Armstrong. This table was turned by hand. Right? When the locomotive was balanced on the table, 4 to 6 men would come out, utilize the poles off the ends, turn the table to the track, and off the locomotive would go into the roundhouse. Now as we bring tag 80 onto the table, you're going to watch that end of the table drop down a little bit because the tag only weighs 120 tons. Not that much. But still, it's enough to jump that table a little bit. As he idles across the table, there's a 6-foot diameter bearing in the center that he's going to balance on or teeter on. He'll know he's set properly on the table when this end drops just a bit. So we're going to have a hit right here. As he comes on, he's going to raise it up a little bit, slide it across, then he's going to drop this side. The engineers know that when this side drops, they stop. Now, Tag 80, let's talk about that. This is a local hero right here, local veteran locomotive. The Tag, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia Railway, was the only railroad to be based out of Chattanooga. Now, you notice John A. Chambliss' name under the conductor window there, number 80. John A. Chambliss was a VP of the Tag Railroad. When this locomotive was built in 1968 by General Motors, they delivered it and they commissioned it on John's 80th birthday. So he gets his name and his birthday as on the locomotive. Now, this railroads were merging over the years in the decades of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, up into the 80s while they were forming larger railroads. Well, the Tag became part of the Southern Railway. It lost its blue livery. Livery is a British railroad term for paint design or paint scheme. So it went from this blue livery to the Southern tuxedo, which is black with a white band around the base of the cowlings. When the Southern Railway was finished with it, the Southern Railway merged with the Norfolk Southern. So it kept the black livery, lost the white stripe, but gained a thoroughbred racehorse design. Now, because Norfolk Southern was known as the thoroughbred of railroads. So now when the Norfolk Southern was finished using the locomotive, they put it up for auction. The Chambliss family purchased the locomotive back. Then they donated it to us here at the museum. We took it out of the Norfolk Southern livery, repainted it back in the original livery that it was delivered in 1968. Now we're going to line up on track 2. Our engineer Andrew in the cab there. He's going to take our locomotive down past our consist, go through a switch, and then back up onto the other end of our passenger cars. As they remove Tag 80 off the table, we are going to head down. And as we're departing East Chattanooga, heading back to Grand Junction, you'll see on the right side of the train examples of the truck assembly present in back shops. First 2 that we come to are from heavyweight coaches, 3 axles, nice and flat. And then there's also the second one is going to be underneath our diesel with the traction motors in them. And on the yellow trailer is a traction motor assembly where you can see the traction motor in between the wheels. Our locomotive has 4 of these. Just drove past here. That's I guess we're going to head down to OoTelwah. It's only about an hour from now. We're actually, we have one more note of business here. Yeah, turn our train around. So we will be coming back today. What we're doing is we're coming down the end of the west leg of our Y. Y is the WYE designed to a set of tracks allow trains to railroads to take trains around. So as our engineer
Railfan to Northeast Georgia is NSF territory. Out the window. After the cruise and trip down to Florida to see for trains down there, it's gotta be Tri-Rail. NSF.